And I have the pleasure of having Dr. Paula Rhodes with me to anchor this session. She's an amazing friend. She's an amazing clinician. She's a beautiful person. She actually came with me to Nigeria, or went with me to Nigeria last year to teach at the Holistic Health Conference. She's a doctor of chiropractic, excuse me. She has a diploma in functional neurology, a certification in functional medicine, and then she was a faculty at Life University for about 10 years before she went back again into private practice. So I would like to say, Dr. Rhodes, welcome. We are happy to have you, and we are very excited, looking at the conversations we are going to be having today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. I will just share a short prayer before we start. Heavenly Father, as a group, Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. And we just thank you for the things that we are going to be learning. And we ask that you will fill us with your wisdom. You will give us the strength to make the right changes, and that you will you help our lives to truly reflect your glory. And all this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so I am going to start. Hold on. I know some people have started sending me messages. Yes, hello everybody. Thank you. And please, as a start, I want to remind us all that please start typing your questions from the moment you have any questions, and we are going to be collating those questions. So I'll be looking at some of them. And so if you have questions, please go ahead and type it. And then you are free to converse on the chat, talk to each other. And then please, I want to remind us, please fill your Google Forms. Because there's going to come a time that might be just by invite only. So can you kindly, please, in the Zoom, in the messages you receive, there's a link for you to fill your contact information. So please, I want to encourage that you fill that. Okay, so we are going to start by watching, as usual. I love showing videos. And so we are going to start by watching a video on the microbiome. So let me take us there. Give me one moment.
Trillions of bacteria, viruses, and fungi live on or inside of us, and maintaining a good, balanced relationship with them is to our advantage. Together, they form the gut microbiome, a rich ecosystem that performs a variety of functions in our bodies. The bacteria in our guts can break down food the body can't digest, produce important nutrients, regulate the immune system, and protect against harmful germs. We don't yet have the blueprint for exactly which good bacteria a robust gut needs, but we do know that it's important for a healthy microbiome to have a variety of bacterial species. Many factors affect our microbiomes, including our environment, medications like antibiotics, and even whether we were delivered by C-section or not. Diet, too, is emerging as one of the leading influences on the health of our guts. And while we can't control all these factors, we can manipulate the balance of our microbes by paying attention to what we eat. Dietary fiber from foods like fruits, vegetables, nuts, legumes, and whole grains is the best fuel for gut bacteria. When bacteria digest fiber, they produce short-chain fatty acids that nourish the gut barrier, improve immune function, and can help prevent inflammation, which reduces the risk of cancer. And the more fiber you ingest, the more fiber-digesting bacteria colonize your gut. In a recent study, scientists exchanged the regular high-fiber diets of a group of rural South Africans with the high-fat, meat-heavy diets of a group of African Americans. After just 2 weeks on the high-fat, low-fiber, Western-style diet, the rural African group showed increased inflammation of the colon as well as a decrease of butyrate. That's a short-chain fatty acid thought to lower risk of colon cancer. Meanwhile, the group that switched to a high-fiber, low-fat diet had the opposite result. So what goes wrong with our gut bacteria when we eat low-fiber processed foods? Lower fiber means less fuel for the gut bacteria, essentially starving them until they die off. This results in less diversity and hungry bacteria. In fact, some can even start to feed on the mucus lining. We also know that specific foods can affect gut bacteria. In one recent microbiome study, scientists found that fruits, vegetables, tea, coffee, red wine, and dark chocolate were correlated with increased bacterial diversity. These foods contain polyphenols, which are naturally occurring antioxidant compounds. On the other hand, foods high in dairy fat, like whole milk, and sugar-sweetened sodas were correlated with decreased diversity. How food is prepared also matters. Minimally processed, fresh foods generally have more fiber and provide better fuel. So lightly steamed, sautéed, or raw vegetables are typically more beneficial than fried dishes. There are also ways of preparing food that can actually introduce good bacteria, also known as probiotics, into your gut. Fermented foods are teeming with helpful probiotic bacteria like lactobacillus and bifidobacteria. Originally used as a way of preserving foods before the invention of refrigeration, fermentation remains a traditional practice all over the world. Foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, tempeh, and kombucha provide variety and vitality to our diets. Yogurt is another fermented food that can introduce helpful bacteria into our guts. That doesn't necessarily mean that all yogurt is good for us, though. Brands with too much sugar and not enough bacteria may not actually help. These are just general guidelines. More research is needed before we fully understand exactly how any of these foods interact with our microbiomes. We see positive correlations, but the insides of our guts are difficult places to make direct observations. For instance, we don't currently know whether these foods are directly responsible for the changes in diversity, or if something more complicated is happening. While we're only beginning to explore the vast wilderness inside our guts, we already have a glimpse of how crucial our microbiomes are for digestive health. The great news is we have the power to fire up the bacteria in our bellies. Fill up on fibers, fresh and fermented foods, and you can trust your gut to keep you going strong.
Wow, that is amazing, Dr. Rhodes. That is truly amazing. Looking at, before I share let me just share the PowerPoint and then we can talk on what we've just watched so that we can go from there. Let me just share the PowerPoint. Yes, but Dr. Rhodes, that is amazing, just listening to that. And I actually wrote down some things that really stood out to me. And one of those things is that the bacteria in the gut really needs fiber in order to produce some important fatty acids that are very, very important to us. And so when we don't feed them with fiber, we don't eat the right food, those bacteria, those microorganisms that require fiber in order to do their good job actually die out. And then the bad ones that, feed on sugar and all of that multiply. And then we end up not getting the right nutrient. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. And that's basically why the food we eat, one of the big reasons why the food we eat in a nutshell is so important to our gut health and our whole body health. I mean, there's what we're finding is, you know, that I call them the bugs, because it's just an easy way to refer to these microbiotics, these bacteria that make up our part of the lining of our gut that's so important. If we feed them the right foods, we get the right set of gut bacteria. When we eat the highly processed foods high in sugar, foods high in bad fats, fried foods, foods without a lot of fiber, which, you know, on this side of the ocean in the standard American, you know, the standard American diet is full of those kinds of foods, unfortunately. It's the fast foods, you know, the greasy meats that are not very high quality. We end up feeding the bacteria that are not so helpful to us and totally disrupting that balance. And in a nutshell, that totally disrupts our health.
Yeah. And for those that attended the last session, if you remember the first session, if you remember talking about how this all started for me, and, you know, and I said it started when I read the book of Genesis and just looking at the fact that immediately Genesis 1, imagine the beginning, the first thing that was talked about after creation of man, after we read and God made man in his own image and all of that, the next thing that was being talked about was food. I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth and every tree that has fruit with seeds. And just looking at fiber, this kind of food has a lot of fiber. Every seed-bearing plant and then every tree that has fruits. We know that fruit contains lots of fiber. You know, seeds have fiber. So it's almost like God is saying, I'm giving you fiber, 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 you know, because I have created you with this guest and this tenants inside you that will help you. And we also know that the soil which we are from is full of microorganisms. You know, it's a symbiotic relationship where they benefit each other. You have the nitrogen forming microorganisms. You have all kinds of microorganisms living with the soil, in the soil. And so it's not surprising that our bodies, you know, is also made up of a lot of microorganisms. And see, it says, I have given you fruits of all kinds, and their fruits we serve for food and their leaves for healing. And so all this for me keeps saying fiber, fiber, fiber. And then I saw this quote from Hippocrates, says all diseases begins in the gut. And last week we talked about that 80%, that research that we see that about 80% of health issues are related to the gut. And so for him to say all diseases, you know, it might not be extremely everything, but it is almost like everything. And then in our gut, it's funny, we have bacteria, viruses, protozoa, fungi. It's almost like, really? We've always thought that viruses are like, they shouldn't come near me, they are bad, you know, fungi, they shouldn't come near me, they are bad. But just realizing that they are all living inside our gut, you know, and, you know, doing some good work within our gut. You know, Dr. Rhodes, what do you say about that?
I say that's so true. You know, our culture is very, in the US in particular, and especially right now after COVID-19, we're very germophobic. We're very anti-germs. We've got to sanitize everything. You know, in our office right now, we're sanitizing everything in between every patient. We're washing our hands. We're wearing masks. And it's actually kind of contrary to what we really know in the, you know, in science now about how microbes are actually very helpful for us. And even as babies, as kids, you know, you always wonder why babies, the first thing they do is they want to put everything in their mouth, and their hands are always going into their mouth. And it's just this year that I've realized that that may actually be a very adaptive process, because they're exposing themselves to lots of microbes, which helps stimulate their immune system and help their immune system develop. So these microbes are, you know, there's Dr. Zach Bush talks about how we're more bugs than we are human. You know, pound for pound, pound for pound we're more human, but bug by bug, if you count the numbers, there's more microbes cell for cell than there are human cells.
Yeah, I mean, this, you can look at this, the things that, do you know that we humans are mostly microbes, and that we have over 100 trillion of microorganisms living inside us, over 100, and that microbes outnumber our cells 10 to 1. So for every one cell, and our bodies are made up of trillion cells, and cells, but for every one cell, we have 10 microorganisms, meaning that is how they make us, it's amazing that we need 10 microorganisms. It's almost like you need, they are like your, what do you call it, valet, for every cell, you have 10 valet,
that's right.
Supposed to be helping the cell.
The human body is about 90 trillion cells, and yet we have 100 trillion microbes.
The human body is about
9 trillion.
The body is about 9 trillion cells, and then we have about 100 trillion. So we have, like, as I said, 10 valet to one cell of the body. Majority live in our gut, particularly in the large intestine. And then the genetic, the microbiome that we talk about is the genetic materials of all the microbes. And we say we have the bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and viruses. And then they weigh as much as 5 pounds. So if we remove 5 pounds of our weight, it's made up of microorganisms. And then they may cause diseases if we have the wrong ones, directly or indirectly, when the delicate balance. So there's such a balance of the good and the bad. And then and this just blows my mind to see the microbiome of the mother may affect the health of her children, because I was watching a video that, if it is believed that the baby in the womb is sterile, even though that is being challenged, some people are saying it's not 100%, they are still, so I'm interested in reading more about that. But that as the baby is passing through the birth canal and coming out, the baby has the first exposure to microorganisms. And then the baby, and then as the baby is feeding from the mother's breast milk, the baby starts getting more. So the first kind of microorganism that the baby hits the baby is the mother's microorganism. And so if the mother has very unhealthy microbiome, microorganisms, then it will not really be good for the baby.
Yes, and a lot of our fecal material is actually dead bacteria that has helped us digest our food and is now passing through.
Wonderful. So that is poo, dead bacteria.
It makes up a lot of our poo.
Wow, it's so good to know that. And and that, it brings to this next slide that says that the bacteria and the microbe helps digest our food. It helps to regulate our immune system. Can you imagine? They help with our immune system. They protect us against other bacteria, because we know that as you open your mouth or your eyes, they are all over. If you open your eyes and see what is in your environment, you are going to want to, throw up because of the teeming microorganisms, and they want to come in. And that's why we have them in us to stop those ones from coming in. And then they produce vitamin B for us. We know how important vitamin B12 is to our cells, our nervous system, how thiamine, riboflavin to our mental health. And that is why that makes sense that the gut bacteria is important for mental health, because the B vitamins, I call them the brain vitamins. And they are what helps you with anxiety, with balance, with memory. And so if these are not being produced in the stomach, by this gut bacteria, then you're going to be deficient in them, and then you're not going to be able to think well or function well mentally. Wow. And then vitamin K, which is important for your blood to coagulate. They are important for your human development. And then, as I said, they live in us and, stop invaders. Then look at this. There can be the bad ones. When all this balance is tipped off, they can cause autoimmune disease like diabetes. And we know that our world is off the chart with people that are diabetic. Rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, fibromyalgia, just this pain all over the body. And then just general dysfunction. Wow, that is amazing.
Dr. K, 80% of our humoral immune system is actually surrounding the gut. Our gut is the interface, and our gut is, everything between our mouth and the other end.
Yeah, the two ends.
So that's the gut. So it starts in the mouth, but when we talk about it, generally we mean the stomach, the small and the large intestine. But 80% of our humoral immune system surrounds the gut, and that's because that's where the outside environment meets our internal environment. So it's a very, very important interface between us and the outside world, and that's where these bacteria and microbiome becomes such a critical part of managing that interface. And 100%, speaking of the immune system, 100% of Treg cells are in the gut. So the Treg cells.
Dr. Rhodes, remember, what are the Treg cells? We need to understand some of those words.
Yes, so the immune system gets really complicated, and we'll probably have to do that, talk more about that in another talk, but the immune system is made up of a lot of different kinds of very specialized cells, and one of them is called the Treg cell. And the Treg cell helps regulate the rest of the immune cells and the immune response.
Okay.
So it's key in determining whether we over-respond or under-respond with our immune systems to what we're being exposed to. And that's how things can sometimes go wrong, is we can over-respond to a food or under-respond to a toxin. And 100% of our Treg cells that regulate this immune system are in the digestive system. So it's very key. Our immune system is very, very connected and located. Much of it is located around our GI tract.
And that just tells us, and because a lot of our challenge today, even with coronavirus and all of that, that determines who heals and who doesn't heal, all falls into, all is regulated by the immune system,
Absolutely.
And so we are talking about all these microorganisms are there to help regulate. So the more good microorganisms we have inside our gut, the more we are, able to fight infection, the stronger our immune system is, because they are receiving the right stimulation and the right things to work. Based on what you are saying with the Treg. I mean, this is an interesting slide look at all your tenants, all our tenants. You have them, all the big names: Clostridium, Streptococcus, Lactobacillus, And do you know that some of these, are also opportunists? It's so funny. Streptococcus when you remove some of the good ones that keep them in check, they can also cause problems. And so it's amazing that you have the wonderful balance that you have. And then look at this, when I saw this really was amazing for me to see that depending on the different culture, we have like different colonies that are like the most prevalent. All of us, we have similar colonies, because, they are essential, but then we have some more than the others. So looking at this chart with the African Americans in the US and the native South Africans, you have different bacteria that are more. For the African Americans, you have the bacteroids more than other bacteria. They have, look at all the red. And then with the South Africans, you have the Prevotella as being more dominant. And that just tells us that what we eat, what we feed, our environment determines the state of our health. And that is why we are seeing things changing as the world begin to eat more of the Western style foods.
Yes.
We are experiencing more of the diseases that we see in the West.
Western style diseases, that's right.
Good. Do you want to talk a bit more about the leaky gut?
Yes. So that's when people travel, that is one of the reasons why they get what they call traveler's diarrhea. It's not just the water, it's the food as well. They don't have the microbiome to digest the fibers that they're now taking in that are different in this new country, this new location they're in, than they're used to. So their GI tract has to adapt to this new food. And it's a good thing to adapt to that, but it can cause some disruption. And that imbalance gets thrown off until it sort of recalibrates and comes back into a balanced state with the new foods. But dysbiosis is what we call that disrupted population of microbiome in the gut. And when that gets disrupted, it's basically your bugs are out of balance. The good bugs are now, there's there's a large number of very good bugs, and then there's always a small number of those opportunists, those fungi, those, you know, those staph or strep bugs that we want to keep in a very small percentage. But those percentages can change depending on what we eat, depending on stress, depending on our lack of micronutrients, depending on, you know, infections, antibiotics. Lots of different things can change the balance in our gut. And when that happens, that produces a state called dysbiosis, or imbalanced gut. And that then leads to, if that is if dysbiosis is allowed to go on for week after week, month after month, year after year, and believe it or not, there are many people who've lived with a dysbiotic gut for years, they get sick. It contributes to the development of a lot of diseases. And the way that that happens is that this imbalanced gut population allows the cells that line the gut to develop spaces between them. And we call that leaky gut syndrome.
Wow. So you have little holes, you
yes.
know, meaning that, you know, I know that space is called tight junctions. And
yes.
they are called tight junctions for a reason, because they are supposed to be really, really tight.
Really tight.
You know, it's just like in between your teeth, you know, you have this, you know, you have these junctions, and then when food particles start entering in between them, then you start having problems, you know, and then they form holes. And because you don't want things to enter, you don't want anything to enter to the other side. And so these tight junctions, as you said, prevent, you know, large food particles from entering into your bloodstream, because when they enter into your bloodstream, your immune system will see them as enemies and begin to attack them and develop antibodies against foods that should be healthy. And then you can actually have an allergy as a result of that. So you need this tight junction, and yes, we are saying that these microorganisms help you to maintain those tight junctions. And when they are not doing their job well, or you have, you know, killed them off and replace them with bad ones, then you end up not having those tight junctions. Also, from the video we watched, we saw that we saw that when the microorganism are starved, they begin to feed on the walls.
Yes.
Of the intestine to get nutrients. And so
that's,
yeah,
exactly. That's the other way that this leaky gut happens, is not only does the disrupted populations now allow these tight junctions to be broken open and have these big gaps between the cells. And the teeth are a great analogy, because those epithelial cells sort of look like, they're shaped like this teeth in the diagrams that I've seen. So, you know, they're normally close together when they have those gaps. Now you can absorb things you were never designed to absorb. And the bacteria that are left start eating and actually damaging the gut lining instead of protecting it.
Awesome. And then I can see that as a result of this leaky gut, and we're going to talk more about leaky gut. So today, because of time, you know, we are focusing more on the microbiome. It affects your brain. When you have leaky gut syndrome, it can lead to depression, anxiety, ADHD. It affects your skin, eczema, psoriasis. It affects your thyroid, Graves' hypothyroidism. It affects your colon, constipation, diarrhea, adrenals, fatigue, joint, rheumatoid arthritis, headache, sinus and mouth problems, cold. It affects everything. Why? Because we know that from the gut, it goes everywhere. You know, the blood is the highway. You know, it's like from once something enters, and that's why the tight junction is so important, because that prevents anything that shouldn't enter into your highway, your blood system, to enter. Because once it enters your blood system, there's no limitation to where it's going. It goes everywhere.
And it does affect mental health. That is one of the hotbeds of research right now, is how the gut health actually impacts mental health, and how now in psychology and psychiatry, they're actually putting people with some of their patients on gut cleanses and healing their gut, and these people are able to get completely off their medication.
We actually heard that last week from Dr. Sam. You know, it talked about a patient that had psychiatric problems, and that, you know, it kept on not getting better, relapsing and all of that. And then he just said, you know what, why don't we just deal with the gut? And bam, the patient improved. And so just looking at that, I mean, looking at some of these diseases, even autism, you know, we know that that is big time. You know, we talked about ADHD, obesity, and that brings me to this this interesting picture of, and then I'm going to, because of our time, I'm going to try to move a little bit faster. But looking at this, that your gut bacteria can determine whether you are thin or fat. That there was a research they did in which they took for some slim rodents, they took the microbiome in the stomach of fat rodents and implanted it, and then they did it vice versa, and then the fat ones became slimmer and then the thin ones became fatter because they exchanged microbiome in their stomach. And so I'm trying to lose weight, you know, so the meaning that if I, you know, change my microbiome in my, I can lose weight faster. Interesting. And then antibiotics promote fat gain, you know, that basically the same thing, that the antibiotic will kind of get rid of those good bacteria. And then as a result of that, they are not able to do their work to promote health. I think we've talked a bit about this. I like this. It says that, look at this. I will have the brain, the mouth is saying, I have a garden salad. And then the microbiome in the stomach is saying, can I have cheeseburger and fries? And who do you think is going to win? The microbiome. They are the ones, they are the master and lord in the stomach. And so even though we have taught everyone, you know, we are teaching and we are saying that, okay, eat healthy, but you are going, why can't I eat healthy? You know, I want to eat healthy, but I'm struggling. My stomach just like is telling me, eat this. Why? Because as we said, the microbiome in your stomach is being fed. They are the ones that you've killed off, the ones that need the fiber. The ones that are living inside are the ones that need fat and sugar.
Yes, so that's the unhealthy microbiome that says, I want the cheeseburger and the fries. The healthy microbiome says, I'll have the garden salad, you know, and it's because it is the fiber that feeds the good ones. So once the difficulty is making the change, once you make the change in, you know, about 2 weeks, you begin to want the healthy foods.
I have noticed that. It takes, you know, it's a battle, you know, because I mean, look at this diagram. We talk about the gut brain. You know, you get signals directly from your gut into your brain. And we are going to talk about that when we look at the leaky gut. We are going to talk about the gut-brain axis. And through there's a nerve, we call it the longest nerve in the body. It's called the vagus nerve, and goes from your brain to your stomach. And so your stomach your brain gets direct information from your stomach. And so these bacteria can be, they have a loudspeaker, and they are just shouting to your brain, give us sugar, give us sugar, give us sugar. And then the ones that are healthy, you know, because they are very few, they are going, give us salad, but and your brain is not hearing them because they are very few. And the ones that are shouting, give us sugar, they are many and they are loud. And then your brain is looking for Coke, your brain is looking for burger, and I have been there, you know, I mean, I know what it feels like when your brain is telling you, give me this, you know, your whole body is you know, because you need that sugar in your system because of the microbiome and maybe some other things. We're about to round up and look at, and then we take some questions. And well, we want to briefly look at some of the therapeutic, because we've talked about the problem. So let's talk about the solution. And one of the solutions that made me laugh when I saw it was called the poop therapy. Poo therapy. You know, but I mean, as much as it is like, oh my goodness, they take poo from a healthy person and inject it into the bump, through the rectum of someone who has, a disease, and they found great results because they changed the microflora. Now, I'm not recommending that you go injecting poo, but what that shows me is that if we do the right thing from here, from this other side, remember we have two ends of the tube. If we do the right thing, it can change and change so much. Can you speak a bit on that?
Yes. So, I mean, as shocking and as, disturbing as that sounds, fecal transplants actually transform very, very sick people that medicine has not been able to help in about 36 hours. Their health totally changes. So that just speaks to the power of being able to inject a healthy microbiome back into the gut. Hopefully, like you said, Dr. K, we do it this way and not that way. That's much easier, and we never want to get so sick that we have to think about a fecal transplant, but they are very effective, and rapidly that change happens. And again, it just underscores how critical the microbiome is for so many aspects of our health. So the key is to prevent ourselves from ever going there. And if we're there, fix it beginning now, and just start eating good high fiber foods, fresh whole foods, avoid the highly processed foods, sodas, too much alcohol, antibiotics, medications that may be contributing to the damage. It's this slide kind of on the more out of the right side shows the solution. And if you do need some additional, if your gut is struggling, probiotics and prebiotics can be helpful. Probiotics are actually a way of injecting yourself with a good bacteria, a set of good bacteria through a tablet or a capsule. And then prebiotics are what feed the bacteria in your gut. And they're typically the non-digestible carbohydrates, not the starches, but the high fiber fruits, the high water content fruits and vegetables. That those fibers that are typically non-digestible by us are very digestible by our bugs, and we need them. We need them for nutrients, but we can't actually digest them without the help of the microbiome. So feeding a variety of these things, feeding ourselves a variety of things, is what will help keep our microbiome diverse, which is really
wonderful.
important.
I think, and that is the key. You said the word, our microbiome should be diverse.
Yes.
And when we feed, and I'm like, it's not surprising why God made the ecosystem very diverse. The amount of fruits and vegetables you have, even in your area. And so, making it diverse, and with seasons, you have this season, you will have apples, orange, guava, tomato, you have different, following that diversity, and not saying, okay, I'm going to just eat only apples all my life, allows, from what you're saying, God in his wisdom allowed for this diversity of the amount of vegetables and fruits and so I like, I'm a fan of healthy buffet,
Yes.
Healthy buffet in which, when I'm eating, I want to see varieties of colors.
Yes. So I have patients who tell me, I eat about 10 foods all the time. That's what I eat, about 10 foods. And that's the problem. And that's what a lot of us do when we're stressed, is we simplify our lives and we simplify our diets to the things that are fast and easy. And it simplifies our microbiome at our own expense.
I like that. I mean, I was just thinking about that. I'm doing a program right now. You know how stressful it is. And many times I'm going, what is the fastest thing I can look for? You just think of this, and it's almost the same thing all the time. And so it's fast, but though it's fast for you at that moment, but what it does, like you say, is it narrows your options and narrows the microbiome.
The diversity,
because you are feeding them with just one type of thing. Every afternoon, you go and get that cheeseburger. You get that fries, and you take that bottle of Coke or bottle of. So you are constantly, you are just you are socialized. You are training them to you are training your body to just be welcoming to a particular kind of microorganism. And so it's important. And then the first way to go, I found that, and I've done this before, is to do a detox, is to first of all stop everything, go on a fast. you know, just say, okay, let's rewire. There's a word we use. Let's go back again and start afresh. And you can start afresh. That is why the pull thing is so positive. You know, you can regroup and go on a fast. And then I like the probiotics, you know, and prebiotics. Because with the probiotics, you know, I have some that I've bought in a store that I've used before, that I use. And then in addition to, if you want, you know, using the tablet one, I also, you have the fermented foods, you know. Let's quickly look at that. Hold on.
And those are wonderful for helping re-inject your gut with the good bacteria that you may not need, you may not have, that you need.
Yes,
yes.
So you can either look at all this fermented food from all over the world, because it's so necessary. Everywhere in the world we have created fermented food. You know, I take kefir. It's a fermented milk. You can take yogurt, you can take kimchi from those, and because the world has become a small village, you know, I see now there's kimchi. I use soy sauce. I take kefir. I can take the fermented. We have in my country, we have a fermented food that is that we used to cook, but sometimes we kill the bug in them by the kind of processing. So as much as possible, you want to take those fermented food without killing the bug, you know, as fresh as possible. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. So the process of fermentation is the process of allowing bacteria to begin to oxidize and break down those foods. So when you allow that process to happen, and you know, these have evolved because we didn't always have refrigeration.
Yeah.
So this happened naturally. And now that we have refrigeration, we eat far fewer fermented foods. But it's important to get some, because it is another way that we can continually make sure we're giving ourselves bacteria.
It's so amazing that you said our civilization is sometimes, instead of it being good for us, you know, actually is counterproductive. You said we have refrigeration. Now we are not having fermented food. Before we had refrigeration, we would, you know, our part of keeping our food was fermenting them, which was also helping our gut bacteria. Yes. And I want to open it up at this time as we round up. I know that there are questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and be able to see the questions that you are asking. Please feel free to send me, type your questions. Can we have copy of the slides? Oh, of course. The slide is, that's why I put in so much information on the slide, because I know that I cannot cover everything. You know, we can't talk about everything. And so we normally, for everyone that attends, you are going to get a copy of this recording. Yay! And you can share. I'm so excited today, because I mean, just learning this information as I was studying, it was exciting for me. And I'm going, yes, I'm going to fight a good fight. I'm going to go and, you know, give strength to the bug in my stomach that are healthy and chase out all the bad bugs. You know, that I like warfare. It's wartime. Da, 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 da. You know, it's time to fight it's time to fight the good fight of faith, as we put it, and enable your body to be successful. So yes, you are going to have access to the video and to it. So do we have any questions in the house? Please type your questions. The reason I've gone on is
I'll just say this while we're waiting for questions too. You know, knowledge is power. We are, in the last 5 and 10 years, we've just really started to understand the gut microbiome and how important it is. And now we're starting to understand how important it is for mental health, and not just physical health, not just gut health. At first it was, oh, okay, the bugs are really important for gut health. And then it's, oh, wow, they're really connected to the immune system. And then it's, oh, wow, they're really connected to health and disease. And then it's like, oh, wow, are really connected to my moods and my mental health. And, you know, so there isn't any area of our health that is not affected by our gut health. And the good news is that now that we understand that, we have something like poop therapy, which God forbid, we hope we never have to use, but it's a tool we can use that really, really is effective if we need it for the people who have very, very sick guts. And again, we can begin to understand, well, if my gut isn't working so well, and I will tell you, most people here in the US have very poorly functioning guts. Now we have a better way of helping them fix that, helping correct that and heal them from the inside out. And in the process of that, we get to heal so many other conditions at the same time. Much of what I do is talk about food in my practice and talk about gut health, because it is where we have to start to heal things like hypothyroidism, even Graves' disease, diabetes, heart disease, and anxiety, depression.
Yes, I have a question quickly so that
Sure.
we can. Somebody said, please, how can one avoid painkillers? Because sometimes I have a migraine and need it to stay calm. And we have talked about how painkillers, a lot of them, ibuprofen, kind of are counterproductive when it comes to health, gut health. So do you have something to say to that?
So what I would do first is look at, well, what's causing the migraines? Do you have a food sensitivity or a food allergy, or is there, what might be causing the migraines? Why are you having them? I could recommend some natural anti-inflammatory type things, or some things that may help relieve the immediate effect of the migraine. But to get really at the cause of it, you want to find out what's creating that in your head, what's causing that effect, and address that. So it takes a deeper dive. It's not a quick fix, but it's a long-term fix.
And I want to say that one of the things that we plan to provide, and you can always email us privately, is consultation. And so you can actually have consultation with some of the consultants and ask, because just like we said here, we are careful not to try to solve health problems by, individual, by saying this is what you do, until we get enough information, because we know that migraine, headache, I've said this so many times, it's just your body's signal of saying something is wrong somewhere. And what painkiller does is to shut off the signal. The problem is still there. So you don't say, that person just died. There has been signals that the person has been shutting off. So you don't want to shut off the signal, except you know where the signal is coming from. Maybe I have a wound on my leg and I know that the headache is coming from that wound. I can shut it off. But when I don't know where it is coming from, I need to not shut it off and need to do proper investigation. And you talk to a consultant, you might have to do gut test, check for your, there are sensitivity tests. You can actually test the state of your gut. There are tests to do to see what kind of bacteria you have in there, how diverse they are. There are tests you can do to find that out. And then you get to the root of your headache. And then that way you don't have to be, silencing the pain using a painkiller. Somebody said, what you call it? What are acidophilus? What is the role of acidophilus?
So acidophilus is one of the types of gut bacteria that we have. It's found in milk, and it's one of the healthy bacteria found in milk, and it's also one of the healthy bacteria found in our guts. We probably get it from mother's milk, and that's what acidophilus is. It's just one of the types of bacteria in our guts.
And there are so many of them. There are so many types. There are thousands. There are different types, and so when you take the probiotics, for instance, you have a lot of different types that have been mixed. Somebody asked another question here, and that will be the last question for this because of time. I'm sorry for the person that said I attended the training and I never got an email for this one. We will work on that to make sure that that does not happen again. Somebody said, what is the cheaper way to clear the gut properly?
So eat healthier foods. Your body will begin to eliminate the bad bacteria as you feed the good bacteria. And you're always going to there's always going to be some of the not so good and a lot of the good, hopefully, in a healthy gut. So you're not going to totally eliminate some, but you want to get those populations back into the proper balance. So start eating the higher fiber foods, start eating some of the fermented
Can you give an example of the higher fiber foods?
Squash, cucumbers, tomatoes, fruits.
Vegetables, all kinds of vegetables,
yes.
spinach, for those in Africa, ugu, tete, all those stem from the vegetables.
The garden salad.
Garden salad in the US, you know, I mean,
seeds.
yes, those are, those stem, you don't digest them, because of the cellulose, but your stomach, but the bug works on them, right, Doctor?
Yes, the bugs help you digest them. They actually break down that cellulose and then free up those nutrients. So we need them, but the irony is we can't digest them without the bugs. So, but by feeding the good bugs, you increase the diversity. The problem is we've narrowed our diversity by not feeding them very diverse foods. So when you expand your diet and have a diverse diet, you're going to have a diverse microbiome. That's the cheapest, simplest way.
Wonderful. So see, you don't have to spend a lot, except if you are not really doing well, you might need to do a systematic walk, but I mean, start by, as I said, start first of all, just go on a fast. And we're actually going to have a session on detoxification. So please, make sure you join, where we are going to talk a lot more about step by step, all the various options available. But right now, before then, what you can do, start on a fast, go check your shelves. I think that's the first thing. Just check your shelves. What are you feeding? How much sugar, how much fat? Take a stock of what you are putting into your body. And I have been doing that. We are all on this journey together. Honestly, it's not that I'm there. I'm bringing you into my learning journey. I'm learning all of this and I'm sharing this. So there's no perfect person here. And so I'm checking my shelf. I'm saying
one little tip.
Yeah. Yeah. You wanted to say quickly one little.
I'm sorry.
Okay. And
one tip. Warm water with lemon juice first thing in the morning, an hour before you eat anything. That helps stimulate your stomach acid, and that's another talk for another time, but how important stomach acid is. But it helps stimulate your stomach to secrete the amount of hydrochloric acid it needs to break down some of the food you eat, which then gets sent to your small intestine where it's absorbed. So that preparation process is really important, that initial process. So a little bit of lemon juice, a tablespoon or two, or half a lemon squeezed into about 8 ounces of warm water in the morning. Can be hot water. It's easier to digest if it's not real cold in the morning, and then wait an hour before you eat. And that's very, very good for stomach digestion.
And then you can diversify, by, as we said, eating fermented food, kefir, yogurt, put more fermented food in your mouth. That's why you have in your mouth, you have sweet, sour, salty, and bitter. Regulate, that is and we'll talk about that at some time, why nature has put those kind of sensors in your mouth, because you're supposed to have a balance of them, sweet, sour. So check your food, how much sweet, sour, salty, and the fermented ones are mostly sour. So you have a balance of that. We've spent our time. Thank you so much, Dr. Rhodes.
Oh,
I'm so proud of you. I'm glad you were able to join us. This has been awesome. I'm getting quite a number of good reviews. I have somebody said, great job. I'm proud of you. Woo! I'm excited. Somebody said,
answer one quick question, Dr. K. Someone said, can a messed up gut affect one's appetite? Can I answer that really quick?
1 second. Yeah. Yeah, because
yes,
so that we
it can. That's the answer. Yes, it can.
Yes, a mess up. Yeah. I mean, everything, your gut will affect everything. It will. And as I said, please remember to fill your Google form, please. A Google form was sent to you. Fill it so that we can keep track of, we can send you information, we can invite you for some other things. We are working on a movement called WAM, Wellness Advocate Movement. And through the Wellness Advocate Movement, you are trained to be able to teach others this in a simple way. You become a wellness advocate, and it's free. So please, if you want to, that way you get more information and you're able to teach your family members, your friends, because we can't get to everybody. And so please look out for the Wellness Advocate Movement. Then the next session we're actually having somebody amazing come and share his testimony. His name is Joshua. and he was on the wheelchair. Let me quickly see if I can show you, if I can share the screen for this. So please invite people. Don't miss this session. Let me see if I have it here. Okay, I think I have it here. We are going to be having Joshua.
That's powerful. Joshua
Powerful
has a powerful
testimony.
story.
Let me quickly show you this. Sorry, okay.
Hey, Josh.
Well, that you need to hear the full how he got out of the wheelchair. And Joshua used to have like 10 seizures per day, in a day, 10 seizures. And the military had spent over 2 million trying to get him from one medical center to the other. And with just $250, he saw someone that, you know, did something very simple with him, checked his micronutrients and adjusted him, and he was out of the wheelchair and his seizure had gone down. He's going to be with us. He's going to share his testimony. We hopefully have the doctor that worked with him, and we are going to tell you what are the simple things that he did that was able to change his life, that $2 million with, you know, from hospital to hospital was not able to do. You are going to come and learn about that. Also, finally, some of you had asked, you know, how you can support. Yes, you know, I mean, we are all doing this free, but we will appreciate if at the end of this presentation, as you go, we are going to be running like you will see the Zelle number. You can, if you're in the US, you can give to Zelle 678-665-9858. I'm going to leave it on the screen. You can use Venmo. You can support. You can, in whatever way you want to support us, that is fine. And God will help us to continue to provide this information, because our goal is to make you a wellness advocate, is to make you able to take responsibility of your health in order to help others. So I'm going to end by having this on.
Who can melt the hardest heart and speak life into my soul? And who can spin the world around and hold me ever close? And who can search the depths of me and love me to the core?